back to my channel. Today's missing persons case is probably going to be extremely frustrating for every single one of you. It seems like there should be a fairly obvious suspect in this case. There's one theory that everyone from the police to the father to every web sleuth on the internet believes. It seemed at first like a very cut and dry case, a scenario that we have seen multiple times before on this channel. But the deeper I dug into it, the more intertwined it began to get with other cases and other people, and the more questions I started to ask. So I'm very interested to see what you guys have to say at the end of this video. Today's video is on Rachel Mellon Skemp. She was a 13-year-old 7th grader from Bolingbrook, Illinois. She was an honor student. She was very, very well liked. She loved nature. She loved science. She loved recycling, which I found a quirky little aspect of herself, so I figured I would throw it in here. Her mother, Amy, and her father, Jeff, however, had unfortunately separated when she was just a toddler, leaving her to live with her mother and her stepfather, Vincent. On January 31st, 1996, she woke up that morning and instead of going to school, she decided to stay home. She had a sore throat, she really wasn't feeling well, and she figured it was probably best if she slept it off at the house. This is unfortunately also the day that she disappeared, and the last time she was seen was in her bedroom taking a nap at around 2:30 p.m., wrapped up in a blue blanket by her stepfather, Vincent. Vincent said that they had been taking it easy all day. She obviously did not feel good. They didn't want to push the limits, so they just kind of hung around, played a couple of video games, and eventually she did decide to lay down and take a nap. And when she did this, Vincent decided to go ahead and take their family dog, Duke, which was a German Shepherd, out on a walk. He left the door unlocked because he, one, didn't think he was going to be gone for very long, and two, wasn't planning on going very far because the weather outside that day was, I think, like 7 degrees with a wind chill of -20. So it was freezing cold outside. However, he didn't end up coming back as soon as he'd hoped because their dog Duke actually slipped out of his collar and started chasing a rabbit. This sent Vincent on pretty much a wild chase trying to catch their dog. He returned home without the dog and I guess just went on about his day. He says that he checked on Rachel. I'm not sure if it was right after he got back home or if it was hours later. He did get back around 3, but at 5 p.m. Amy, her mother, and the rest of the family got home, and that's when someone finally realized that Rachel wasn't in her bed anymore. I find this a little bit strange because if she went to sleep at around 2:30, that's a pretty long period of time, and if my child was sick and I hadn't heard them in a couple of hours, even if they were sick and sleeping, I would still go check on them. So the fact that it wasn't noticed until 5 tells me that he actually never went to check on her, which is exactly what the police think as well. Amy immediately filed a missing persons report and police got to the house. She did say that they completely handled the case wrong at first. She claimed it took them over an hour to get there. When they did get there, they noticed a few things. Her 2 pillows she had been sleeping on, as well as the blue blanket she had been in, were missing. Her shoes, her winter jacket, every winter piece of clothing that she had was still inside the house. There was no signs of forced entry, so it seems as if she just was picked up out of her bed and taken out of the house. Nobody had any idea what had happened to her. Police started a very extensive search. Family members started searching. Friends were bundled up by their parents and they all went out and braved the freezing cold, below zero weather, screaming out for Rachel. There were searches on land, there were searches in the air. They had horseback riders, they had divers, they had all-terrain vehicles, they had every possible thing, and they couldn't seem to find her anywhere in the surrounding area. So police did at first treat it as just a runaway, despite the fact that she left without all of her winter clothes into below zero weather. This then led police to tell Amy that there was no possible way Rachel would survive alive out in that weather, facing those elements for a long period of time at all. And this really kicked the search into high gear. Yet, despite even more searching, Rachel was not found anywhere. Her father, who had been living in Dallas, Texas at the time, immediately came up to help all the searches, and he brought an interesting piece of information with him. So apparently on the day that Rachel went missing, she had made a phone call to her paternal grandmother, which is something she never did because she wasn't allowed to. I'm pretty sure that was probably a rule put in place by her mother and stepfather, but she was not allowed to speak to this grandmother, yet for some reason she called her. I'm guessing from the information that I got that the grandmother didn't pick up. It was just shown that there was a phone call from her. Maybe she left a voicemail. I wasn't able to find any more information on that, but Rachel's father thought that was extremely out of character, and to him that said that something was very, very wrong. Some of the first theories were that she had been taken out of state by relatives. She had family living kind of all over, and from what I'm gathering, I'm pretty sure she only saw her mother's side of the family. It seems like the father's side of the family, obviously she wasn't allowed to talk to her grandmother. Her father lived in a different state, so I'm guessing that whole side of the family didn't have a lot of contact with Rachel. So people did speculate that maybe they were angry and they wanted to take her back and have her back as part of their family. However, it was pretty quickly ruled out that this was not the case. Then they really started zoning in on Vincent because his story had a lot of very strange details to it, and there's a lot more alarming things that come along with Vincent himself. He maintained to police that he did check on her after his walk, that his dog did in fact run away chasing a rabbit, that he came home without the dog. He said that he got back at about 3 o'clock. He says that he did check on her and realized that she was missing, yet I don't really have a solid time frame. I mean, if he checked on her right when he got in the home, that means he didn't tell the mother and sat there and waited 2 hours for her to. Then he started saying she must have been taken after he returned from his walk, but then again, that's kind of strange. There was no signs of forced entry, so there would be no way someone could have slipped in and out of the home without him noticing. He said the dog was later returned to home by a real estate appraiser in the time frame before everyone got home from work and school. However, this real estate appraiser, from my knowledge, has never been spoken to. No one ever came forward saying they returned his dog, so his story was very, very hard to believe. They couldn't find a single person that witnessed him running around the neighborhood looking for this dog for 30 minutes. I am sure in a neighborhood with as many houses, and I'll show you a Google Maps shot right here, there were so many houses around, and somehow not a single person in 30 minutes managed to see a man running around in below zero temperatures chasing a dog. I feel like that's something that would kind of alarm someone. He also had scratches all over his body, which police asked him about, and he claimed that he had been servicing his car, and that's how he got all the scratches. He also had a long record of domestic violence and failed multiple lie detector tests. I will say lie detector tests are not the best determining factor. Then something a little bit horrifying happened. Police managed to find a diary stuffed beneath Rachel's bed, and when they looked through it to see if there was, any sort of entries of her, feeling the need to run away or making plans to run away or anything suspicious, they actually found an entry from a few months back where she said that her stepfather Vincent had sexually assaulted her. And this just really added fuel to the fire when it came to Vincent being a suspect. He was subjected to grand jury investigations multiple times. He was forced to give over all of his DNA, his blood, his saliva. I mean, every part of him was basically taken as a sample just in case they did find her, or just in case they did find some sort of evidence they could test it against him. They tapped his phone in 2000. Despite all of these efforts and bringing him into multiple investigations, there was such a lack of physical evidence that they never really got anything to charge him or anything to really put him as their main suspect. So he kind of just after that got off scot-free. A couple years after all of this happened, Amy and Vincent ended up separating, but some way or another, even after the sexual assault allegations from her own daughter, Amy decided to get back with Vincent, and now I think their last known address was somewhere in Tennessee. They did completely move away from the area she went missing. A lot of people can't understand why they would leave a place where their daughter could potentially come back to. Their phone numbers have all changed, and there's really been no way for anyone to contact them. Different journalists have tried to message them, and there has been zero response. Rachel's father thinks that Vincent is guilty, and so do the police. It's just one big lack of evidence at this point. Rachel's father thinks that Vincent has acted so incredibly strangely this entire time, and he does not understand why Rachel's own mother has kind of acted like she just wants to sweep everything under the rug. What I will say about this is that we all grieve very, very differently, and that is actually a grieving process I am very familiar with. It's actually a pretty common coping mechanism to act like something didn't happen. Sometimes it's easier to pretend that than to face the truth. So I don't really see her mother's actions as that strange. It could just be her way of coping. After all, it's been over 20 years, and I'm sure at this point even the father has said he doesn't think she's alive, so I'm sure Amy, the mother, thinks so as well. So maybe this is just her way of dealing with it. I don't think that necessarily means that she's sweeping anything under the rug. Now we're getting into all of the different theories on this case, and obviously, as you've probably gathered at this point, the biggest theory is that Vincent did something to Rachel. When I was looking up theories on this, this was pretty much the only one that I saw, and I saw this even as quotes from police officers involved in the investigation. Everyone is pretty sure that he is guilty of whatever happened to Rachel, her disappearance, possible murder. He was actually brought in one of his investigations for first-degree murder, so they obviously think there's foul play. They obviously think murder is involved at this point, and this is what a lot of people think probably happened. People think that Vincent saw it as a prime time to assault her when she woke up that morning not feeling well. I'm not sure if he had a full-time job and he offered to stay with her. I don't have all the details. But people think that he saw this as a great opportunity. They think that it's quite possible his entire day was just fabricated. It's easy to say, oh, well, we just sat around. Oh, well, we just played video games. I mean, no one's really going to question that. People think he might have tried to sexually assault her at some point during the day if she had really gone down for a nap and he tried to come in and like sneak attack her. People think that's very possible. It would explain why he had scratches. She probably would have fought back. It would explain why her pillows and her blanket was missing, if maybe he had to do something to keep her quiet, or he was scared that she would tell her mother. He might have killed her and wrapped her up in all of that, along with every single bit of evidence, and disposed of her. People think that he was using his dog story as like a perfect alibi. He was out of the house, coincidentally. She was asleep and a perfect victim, coincidentally. He left the house unlocked. The dog just happened to slip off a leash and run away, which it left a perfect window of time for a stranger to come in and snatch her. People think that him coming back without the dog and this random appraiser finding it and bringing it home, yet no one can find out who this appraiser is, was just his way of proving that a person, an actual human, did see him, to kind of make his story seem more real and believable. They think he probably focused so much on making that story that he didn't even think about the whole entire 2 hours after he got home from his walk that someone was going to ask him about. He created this entire alibi to make it seem like someone came in while he was gone, which would make sense in my brain. When he realized they were asking if he ever checked on her when he got back, and he hadn't really made up a story for that, that's when he's like, oh wait, no, well, someone must have come in after I got here. Oh, I checked on her, but I didn't report her missing. Like, it's just this big jumbled mess that doesn't really fit together at all. None of the pieces go together. He checked on her, but he didn't, but she was missing when he left, but then she wasn't. It just like literally doesn't make a stitch of sense in the slightest. But on the other side, it could be as simple as he just didn't check on her as much as he knew he should have. And if someone did come in, he knew it was gonna look bad if he said he never checked on her. So maybe he had nothing to do with it. He just was trying to protect himself from looking like he wasn't paying attention to this sick girl, and that's why she was taken by someone. It also could explain the call to her grandmother. If he had been acting strange or inappropriate at any point during the day, maybe she called her grandmother in hopes of being taken out of the house. Maybe she had had enough. There's no telling really how many times he did it after the entry into the diary. So maybe she really was done. Maybe she was hoping her grandmother would answer and she could be taken over there to her dad's house. That could very easily explain why she made that choice of a phone call. She obviously knew her mother wouldn't support her. You know, it's very possible she had told her mother this was happening and her mother maybe didn't believe her. That's not very uncommon in situations like this. You know, there are a lot of people who think the entire day was just one big cover-up. That would leave a huge chunk of time. You know, the morning when everyone leaves, I'm assuming probably 8 or 9 o'clock, and then no one came home until 5. You know, maybe this happened way earlier on in the day, and then he had literally all day to cover every single thing up. Some of the people that I saw said that there was no way in that 2 hours that he could have done that much cleanup work. However, if you just shifted the time frame a little bit, it's very possible. I'm going to put up another map on Google, and this is their house, and if you look, there's already a handful of different small lakes. I know they did dives and searches, but I'm not sure which ones exactly. Also really close to their home was a pretty large river. It would be really easy to assault someone, kill them, and just throw them over to be swept away in the current. However, at the same time, I don't really see that as being plausible. I'm sure someone at this point probably would have found a body somewhere. But the one thing that does catch my attention is that 45 minutes away from the home is Lake Michigan. And that lake is absolutely massive. I think it's very, very possible to make it there in that time frame. Possibly throw her into this gigantic lake to never be seen again. I think that's very possible, especially if the time frame was altered just a little bit. Who works on their car in below zero weather, and it had been this way for a while? It was winter time in Illinois. Who takes their dog on a long walk in below zero weather? You just don't. You know, just the weather alone has torn apart a lot of theories and stories that people have given. Our next theory is that some stranger took her, which is what the mother strongly believes. Some person took her. Let's take into account again below zero. No one's going to be walking around. No one's going to be standing and hiding in the woods. There was a park across the street, so that would be a good place for someone to kind of watch out at the house. However, once again, with the weather, it was someone that was probably driving. That being said, you know, who's going to sit on a road for literally hours and hope that someone leaves her alone in the house? How would this person watching her know that she was in there? Was it just like a random crime of opportunity where someone was going to rob a house and it happened at just the right moment and they just so happened to stumble across a girl and take her? I don't know. I just find that extremely far-fetched that someone literally watched all day long and waited for the perfect moment. It wasn't like, oh, it was a weekend. It was a day that she was supposed to be at school, but she just so happened to be at home. However, in support of this theory, that would explain why the shoes and the clothes and everything were still inside the house. You know, if you're running in real quick while the stepfather's taking a quick walk with the dog, you know, you're not going to take a lot of time. So chances are you're going to see that she's asleep in her bed, wrap her up in all those blankets, and leave all the winter stuff at home and just run out with her in the blankets. So I can definitely see that happening. I just can't really see someone kind of watching the house all day long. I just find it odd. I feel like someone would notice a weird car. Even Vincent himself said he didn't notice anything out of the ordinary. So I don't know. And that leads us to another theory, that she just ran away, which is the first theory that the cops believed. I feel like if she had run away, her body probably would have been found. The police even said that there was no way she survived for very long. At the same time, they were in a pretty populated area. I feel like a driver would have at least seen her, you know, walking along the side of the road. I'm sure there would be a ton of tips of people seeing her in this area. She was wearing a sweatshirt, sweatpants, and slippers at the time, so I'm sure that also would have looked bizarre in that type of weather, and someone would have probably checked on her because of her age. So I don't really see her running away. She had used the phone that day, and if she was feeling uncomfortable from her stepfather, though, I do see her possibly calling someone and asking them to come and get her to help her and run away. Again, she could have felt trapped if her mother possibly didn't believe her story. So while I do see it's possible that she ran away, This case was so big that I feel like there would at least be sightings or something. However, I don't think she just ran away on foot, which was the most likely theory. They checked buses, airplanes, every type of public transportation she could have used to run away, and they found absolutely nothing. And being 13 years old, how many people do you think she probably would have known who had their own car? And the answer is probably not many, if any at all. So that really does just lead us to her walking away. And again, the outcome of that would probably be her succumbing to the elements. And she more than likely would have been found a very short distance from her home, and she wasn't. Then something really strange comes into play, and I was kind of shocked when I saw this, and it's actually going to be next Saturday's video. Brew Peterson was an officer at the time of Rachel's disappearance. I am sure, since you guys obviously are on my channel to begin with, that name is probably very familiar to you. This man is actually now in jail for murdering his third wife, and there's a lot of speculation that he also murdered his fourth wife. His third wife was found in a bathtub just months after their divorce. It was officially named an accidental drowning, but she had bruises all over her. She had a huge gash in her head, which is now believed to be a stab wound. And after further forensic examination, they did determine that there was some sort of struggle beforehand. However, this isn't even where the story stops. His second wife claims that she was horrifically abused by him for 10 years, as well as her daughter. She even said he frequently threatened to kill her and make it look like an accident, which ironically enough ended up happening to his next wife, who he just so happened to marry 2 months afterwards. Kathleen was his third wife that he killed and put in a bathtub and made it look like it was an accident. Being a police officer, I'm sure he had a lot of knowledge on how to do that. And then again, Kathleen was not the last. He then married 19-year-old Stacy Peterson. He was, I think, 43 at the time, so that already is a little bit strange for a lot of people. He seemed to prey on these younger women and marry them, and then they would turn up missing. That's exactly what happened. She disappeared mysteriously in 2007 and is literally still a missing persons case. I will be covering her next Saturday. And then after she disappeared, he engaged again to another girl, a 23-year-old Christina, making it almost his 5th marriage until Christina's father gave her an ultimatum and said it's either me or him. Christina's father even told her she would end up exactly like Stacy, which means at this point everyone pretty much 100% assumed Stacy went missing because he made it that way. Then in 2015 he was charged yet again with solicitation of murder and solicitation of murder for hire after he tried to hire someone to kill the state's attorney. Whew, this man, you guys, I might have to do just like an entire video on him because he is mind-blowing in the things that he decides to do, and he is relentless. You know, from jail, he literally tried to hire someone to murder somebody. I mean, this man seems to have absolutely no remorse for anything he does, anyone he kills or tries to kill. I mean, if you're already in jail for killing one person and there's a high possibility you've also killed a second one, then you hire someone to kill another person, I just think he really doesn't care, which is why a lot of people believe he had something to do with a cover-up in Rachel's case. He was working on her case at one point. A lot of people believe that he might have possibly done something to help cover something up. Whoever killed her, possibly he caught something, and then out of his own pleasure, since clearly he gets off on doing this sort of thing, he helped them cover it up. It seems to be like his favorite thing to do. So a lot of people think it's very likely he had something to do with Rachel's disappearance, or at least the cover-up of her disappearance as well. No, not much else has happened in this case. Her father has a Facebook page where he helps support other missing persons and get their cases out there. There's also a website for Rachel. They've held many vigils. They do memorials. They did a big thing on the 20-year anniversary. He is still looking for his daughter. He wants so badly to just at least give her a proper burial. At this point, like I said, he does not believe that she's alive, but he at least wants that closure. As of last year, a private investigator that I'm pretty sure is working for him came up with a new lead. Rachel had a fellow classmate named Autumn, and they strongly believe that she might know something without even realizing it. They won't really give any of this information out, obviously, to protect the integrity of their case. I don't know if they've reached her. I don't know if they're still trying to find her. I don't know if maybe she's not speaking. I wasn't really able to find anything more on it, but I really hope that leads to something. This case is absolutely insane. It's heartbreaking, you know, just this young girl with a love for life just goes missing into thin air. There seems to be a very obvious suspect, and it will literally probably drive you crazy just as much as it drives me crazy. I can't stand cases like this where there's a lot of circumstantial evidence against someone, but you know, without those missing pieces, you just can't do anything about it. And that has to be the most frustrating feeling for every single person involved. A lot of the officers involved have said that they feel like it's a big failure, like they have failed her, that she deserved better, and they just couldn't put it together. There are obvious reasons though why they don't necessarily want to put Vincent on trial. You guys, we've talked about this before. With circumstantial evidence, you can be acquitted very easily, and if she were to turn up, if her body was to turn up, if more physical evidence were to turn up, there would be no way to try Vincent again, and he would just be roaming free. The only difference is that we would know for sure this time and really not be able to do anything about it. So I'm interested to see what you guys have to say about this. This one was crazy researching. Do you think that Brew Peterson had anything to do with it? I mean, he had this crazy mind and he was, you know, involved in this case. Do you think that Vincent had something to do with it? He did have a history of violence. He was wanted for a very long time. I'm not sure if he's still wanted for drinking and driving and then not following the terms of his agreement with that. I mean, do you think that she ran away? Do you think that she ran away on foot and is just out there somewhere and we just haven't found her yet? Or do you think maybe she called someone and they came and got her and she is out there just hiding? Let me know what you think down below. I will leave all the links, as I always do, down below to all of my sources and all of her pages that she has going for her right now. You can't forget, you don't stop fighting. You don't stop bringing awareness to a case. Someone knows something. There's answers somewhere. It's just getting to them. It's just keeping on and keeping on and keeping on until you find something. On that note, I'm gonna go ahead and go, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. You guys are the best subscribers I could ever ask for. We are so close to hitting 70,000 subscribers, and that is mind-blowing for me, like mind-blowing. I'll never forget sitting in bed and hitting 1,000 and thinking that was the coolest thing in the world, and to see it grow so fast and for such a good cause is the best feeling, and I love each and every one of you. So don't forget to check me out on all of my social media platforms listed down below. Hit that subscribe button, become a member of the family, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.